guys, up here today we'll be playing Cascade Tron. So Cascade Tron is a brew I made that is very spicy and of course not very good, but it's pretty fun. It's optimized for fun, it's not optimized for winning matches. So let's dig into it. So the biggest addition that I found on Commander's Legends was not the new Monarch cards, which are great and are going to be impacting the metagame a lot, but these new Cascade cards. And just because Cascade is such a fun mechanic, right? You can cascade into anything, right? So if you don't know what Cascade means, it's when you cast a spell, you exile cards from the top of your library, and you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library. So several things from here. So we can cascade into any non-land card from our deck. So if we optimize our deck for Cascade, we can actually not have bad hits. So for example, if you put Counterspell here, cascading into a Counterspell is not really that impactful. It's not going to do anything. But if you cascade into a Muldrifter, you're going to be very happy. And another thing to note about Cascade is that if you cascade into a card that has Cascade, you actually get that other Cascade. So you can cascade Maelstrom Colossus into Annoyed Altisor, into Boarding Party, into something else. So that would be the best possible thing to happen, but of course it's not going to happen all that often. Some of the time you're going to be, for example, cascading into Crop Rotation, which is kind of bad, right? It's not really good. So we're going to be optimizing for making the Cascade as good as possible, right? So these cards are actually pretty big by its own, just an 8 mana 7/7. Of course, if it was just a vanilla 8 mana 7/7, we wouldn't even be talking about this card, but the fact that it has guaranteed value, right? So you cast this card and you're going to get to cast other cards in your deck, and most of our cards are very impactful in the game, means that at worst this is going to be cascading into something like that Prophetic Prism that draws a card. So if it's an 8 mana 7/7 that draws a card, it's really good. If it cascades into a Track Down or a Ponder, it's the same thing. It's going to be similar to kind of a Ponder Mage, a bit expensive but with a bigger body, so it's always going to be very strong. And if we can cascade into several things, then we are going to be just breaking everything. It is going to be just amazing. So how are we going to manipulate the library so we get our hits that we want? So we have actually three cards for this purpose. We have the first one, the best one, I think, in my opinion, is Ponder, because it allows you to reorder the top three cards of your library. So if you see, for example, Crop Rotation, a land, and an Annoyed Altisor, and you have a Colossus that you're going to cast, you can just set up so when the turn you cast the Colossus, you cascade into the Altisor and not the Crop Rotation. And maybe you can even get extra value by binning the other land by putting it in the bottom of your library. And additionally, it's pretty good at finding Tron pieces or Prophetic Prisms or whatever you need for enacting the Tron game plan, right? Because we are also a Tron deck. We also have, for the library manipulation part, we have Track Down, which actually does scry 3 and reveal the top card of your library, and if it's a creature land, you draw it. So we have a really high number of creatures on land, so it's very weird. It would be very weird to fizzle with this card to not draw anything. But even if you fizzle, you scry 3, so you can put anything on top, even if you don't draw a card. So if you play this before playing one of your Cascade spells, you can just reorder it, so you draw the land and put, for example, the Muldrifter that you want to cascade into. So this basically means that when you're optimizing the Cascade, so it always cheats on mana really well. And the last one, the most spicy one, is Dream Cash, which is a card that I never see play, that never sees play in Pauper, because there are better options for card advantage and card selection, because we have so many good card advantage card selection cards in Pauper. But this one is actually pretty nice for us. So it allows you to do two things: either do basically a brainstorm at sorcery speed, which is awful, or two, to draw 3 and put 2 cards on the bottom of your library. Normally you would cast this to put 2 cards that are bad on the bottom of your library, and when are you going to put cards from your hand on top, right? So since this deck uses the top card of your library for Cascade, you actually want sometimes to have the option to put two cards on top. So you can put, for example, a land and another Cascade spell that you can cascade into. It's a bit of the expensive side, but also it's a pretty good hit with a Cascade spell because it allows you to basically loot 3 cards. So it's a very good card selection device. So those are enablers for Cascade, and then we have the enablers for Tron. So we have crop rotation, prophetic prism, and wonders ornaments. We have all 4 crop rotations because we are a big mana deck, right? We want to be casting our Altisaurs, our Parties, our Colossus as early as we can. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to do it by sacrificing lands, of course, and getting your Tron as fast as possible on turn 3, so you can cast your boarding party or your Altisaur. So, being honest, we are not going to be casting Colossus on turn 3. I think it's possible, but it's very difficult. You have to kind of have Tron already, and then crop rotation one of your mines for another mine, so you actually generate 1 mana or something like that. But it will be very, very difficult. Normally we are looking to do a big turn on turn 4. That's our game plan. So also we have Prophetic Prism, which helps a lot in the mana development part because Tron actually doesn't produce colors, so you need to have Prophetic Prism to fix your colors. And we also have Wonders Ornament, which as a failsafe is kind of a Monarch, a one-sided Monarch. You can just draw cards if you need to by paying extra mana that you have, because even though we have a lot of card draw and card selection, we might just run into not having enough action, right? So if you keep a hand that only has ways of assembling Tron and Bonders Tournament, it's actually a very good hand because you can actually play Bonders and start taking it to draw cards. So it's pretty good. And then lastly, we have one Staunch Throneguard. I just put this in to test it. I really like it. This could be other Monarch cards. I went for this one because I wanted to test it. I think it's a good body. There is a red and a blue one that are 4 mana, but since we are a Tron deck, we don't really care that much about cheating on mana that way. I went for the best body that we can find, since we want a big butt really to block opposing creatures. So a card like the 5/2 Trample, the Crimson Fleet Commodore or whatever is useful, but it's, I think, a bit worse in this deck. But that's something that may change in the future, or maybe we don't even want the Monarch in the main deck. Then the sideboard is just good stuff. We have Pyroblast for blue decks, Hydroblast for red decks, Wear the Storm, which works actually pretty good when you cascade into it, since you are going to get at least 2 copies of Wear the Storm. Then we have Ancient Grudge, which we can actually cast very easily both halves of it. Cleansing Wildfire, which is pretty good against Tron. We could actually go for other land destruction spells, but I like this one because it draws a card, so it helps it helps our deck by not making it hard to keep churning to our deck, right? Really. And then Fire Cannonade, I was on the verge of putting Fox instead of Cannonade. I ended up putting Cannonade because it's better to cascade into a Wrath than cascade into a Fog, because that's not very effective. So yeah, that's basically the deck. I actually never played even one game with this, so this is going to be just testing it, seeing how it works, and feeling it and seeing if it's good or not, and what changes can we make for this. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be a tier deck. I think it's going to be a fun deck to play. I really like the idea of doing the best cascade possible in the format as often as possible, but let's be honest, it's not going to be all the time, and it's not going to be it's not going to be the super good, really. But if we can make some nasty turns, it's going to be really fun. Last but not least, in the land department, we have one more Mire, which actually works very well with Cascade. If you put, for example, a Muldrifter that you bulked the turn previous on top and then you Cascade, you're going to hit that for sure. And since we also have so many big creatures, the Mortuary Mire and Haunted Fengraf are actually very good at just making sure that you never run out of threats. And Mortuary works very well with crop rotation, as does Hunted Fengraf. We have some thriving lands because we need to be able to cast the boarding party, but we are mostly a blue-green deck, right? So yeah, we are mostly splashing red from the Prism, the Ornaments, and the thriving lands. So that should be enough for us to be casting the boarding party when we need to. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to, you can subscribe to my channel. I know I'm not your boss. Do it if you want to. Let's see you in the games.